I stared at the caller ID on my phone and felt my heart skip a beat. Vivian Harrison. 2 years had passed since I'd cut ties with the Harrison family, 2 years since I'd thought I'd finally escaped that nightmare. I was sipping my lukewarm coffee at 7 a.m. in my tiny kitchen when I saw her name. In a shaky breath, I answered. Hello. I managed to say, my voice an octave too high. There was a pause. Then Vivian's voice, impossibly soft. This is Vivian Harrison, she began. My chest tightened. Her voice had never been gentle. We need to talk. A chill ran down my spine. It felt like being yanked back into a nightmare I'd struggled to forget. What about? I asked cautiously, setting down my mug. Vivian took a breath, almost like gathering courage. About William and Madison and about us. My grip tightened on the table. Us? That word barely felt real on her lips. You need my help? I echoed, unable to hide the tremor. Yes. Her answer was quick. Sharper than I expected. I need your help to fix my relationship with my children. Silence hung heavy. 2 years ago, she had tried everything to destroy me, bribing me to leave William, whispering venomous lies in his ear, humiliating me whenever she could. And now she wanted my help? I felt my mind reel. My life had been a roller coaster since meeting William, and this call was the highest peak of confusion yet. Some instinct deep in me whispered, remember how it all began. Suddenly, the kitchen around me blurred. The modern walls and my shabby apartment all faded. I blinked, and I was no longer at the breakfast table with Vivian's voice on the line. I was years earlier, sitting across from the handsome stranger who had changed my life. I met him on an ordinary Tuesday morning at the Starbucks on Spruce and Fifth. I'd just rung in for my lunch break, fiddling with my door-to-door sales flyer when a well-dressed man asked, "Mind if I sit here?" He smelled like rich cologne, Tom Ford, maybe, and wore a perfectly tailored suit with a gold watch gleaming on his wrist. He looked a world apart from the hand-me-down jeans and ratty polo I wore under my green apron. Still, I didn't blink or look away. Go ahead, I said, gesturing to the chair next to me. He flashed a brilliant smile, the kind that lights up his entire face. Thank you, he said, and then ordered 2 grande lattes for us. I'm William, he introduced himself, extending one hand my way. His grip was confident but warm. Nice to meet you, I replied. We sat there, strangers at dawn, and somehow ended up talking for the better part of an hour. My heart felt fluttery, the normal kind, not the nervous kind, which was unusual for me. He asked about my life, genuinely curious. He listened as I told him about working door-to-door since I was a kid, and how I'd finally managed to rent my first little apartment. He laughed at the right moments and offered real understanding when I admitted I didn't even know who my parents were. Later that afternoon, as I walked to my beat-up car, I caught myself smiling. I could hardly believe it. An expensive suited stranger with a golden watch had just made me laugh freely, without any walls up. I wasn't his usual company. He clearly moved in different circles. And yet he sat there in a modest coffee shop with me, finding me interesting. Over the next few weeks, we went on more dates. Picnics in the park, late-night movies, slow walks through the city. He told me stories about his childhood, growing up in a big house with generations of family money and parents who still insisted on breakfast in the Hamptons every Sunday. I tried to swallow my insecurities with each fancy brunch anecdote. In my mind, my own childhood was night to his day. I'd lived in a tent city on Skid Row, skipping dinners often, and I'd never known which direction my parents came from, much less had them beside me. But he wasn't judging me for any of it. In fact, once he took me by surprise. One warm evening, as we walked through a trendy part of town I'd never have dreamed of, he turned to me and said sincerely, "Wow, you really worked your way up, you know that?" I nearly tripped over the word. "You worked your way up?" He nodded. "I mean, just by knowing your story, I know how hard it must have been." "That's so impressive." His tone held no trace of pity or surprise, only admiration. I felt tears sting my eyes before I knew it. He had no clue what those words meant to me. In that moment, my cold defenses cracked. I poured all my gratitude and relief into a real laugh. "Thank you," I said quietly. I wanted to tell him how scared I was that he'd eventually turn his nose up at me for where I'd come from, but I didn't say it. I didn't have to. He just smiled, took my hand, and the world felt all right. From then on, I thought everything changed. I even caught myself daydreaming about a ring. No joke. I suppose I truly believed he was the one because I had never, ever felt so accepted and loved. He started inviting me to the nicest of places. Black-tie charity dinners, cocktail parties in huge mansions, lunch at country clubs. It felt like stepping onto another planet. People there were discussing whether their kids would go to Yale or Harvard, or babbling about summer vacation homes in Santorini or the Canary Islands. At first, I just tried to listen quietly. I felt like an alien. Until one dinner changed everything. We sat at a long banquet table on the lawn of a Vanderbilt place, a string quartet playing softly in the background. To my left, a woman in pearls talked bitterly about the public school system. Ugh, she snapped, swirling her wine. Public schools shouldn't even exist. If you can't afford real education, then why should you even be part of society? The people around nodded. A few murmured, exactly, and preach. Nobody challenged her. My breath caught. I have to say something, I thought. Just as her gaze swept mine, my own boyfriend chimed in with, "That's a valid point, I suppose." I remember feeling a flutter of pride. Maybe he'll stick up for me. But then the woman just looked at him and said, "Well, if you can't even afford food, maybe nature's way of telling you that you shouldn't be here." Her words were pretty much a punch to the gut. I could feel the blood draining from my face. I wanted to disappear under the table. But something in me rebelled. Without even thinking fully, I mumbled loudly, some people just need extra help getting back on their feet. Everyone at the table froze. The lady's face twisted with amusement at first. Then the whole group turned and stared at me. I wanted the ground to swallow me. I grabbed the silverware and twirled the peas on my plate. Trying to play it off, I made a weak joke. Or, I laughed nervously. Maybe the poor should be kissing our feet and thanking us for all we do. It came out wrong. It sounded terribly bitter, but I said it to divert attention from my discomfort. But the damage was done. The women at the table started nodding again, agreeing even more. One leaned in to her friend and whispered, just loud enough for me to hear, "See? She really gets it." My boyfriend, William, sat with his mouth open, eyes wide like he hadn't expected any of this to come from me. I quietly said, "Excuse me," and fled to the ladies' room, fighting tears. I slid into a stall and closed the door. I could hear their conversation on the other side. "Oh my God, did you hear what William's girlfriend said?" Someone whispering. "Don't even get me started," Vivian's voice said, brittle with disgust. "He warned us she was from the gutter, but I didn't know she was an educated peasant too. I hope he realizes that she's nothing but a poverty project soon and dumps her." It was like being struck by lightning. They knew I was in the stall. I sat on the toilet with my back to the door frozen. Educated peasant. Poverty project. The words echoed in my head. Trembling, I tried not to cry. When they finally left the bathroom, I emerged and washed my hands, staring at myself in the mirror. A perfect stranger's face stared back. My eyes were red, cheekbones flushed. Vivian Harrison's mom look had faded to pale shock. For a long moment, I just leaned there, pressing my forehead to the cool tile, listening to the party behind me fade away. I made myself finish the night. I put on a brave smile, even offered to grab dessert. But inside, I wanted to scream at my boyfriend, to tell him what they'd just said about me. I never did. Instead, I just went home that night. The humiliation of that moment could have shattered me. I should have run away from that family as fast as my legs could carry me, but I didn't. Strangely, the opposite happened. We kept dating. I pushed down the pain and kept going back to their house, to their parties, to every event William invited me to. I smiled through family dinners, nodding at jokes about poor people, pretending it didn't break my heart a little each time. In fact, Vivian and his sister, and even William himself, started to loosen up around me. We drank together. I brought whiskey bottles to their parties, cheap ones, of course, and sometimes a bottle of white wine, and we sat until late into the night as the others danced or played polo or whatever. As the drinks flowed, the family's tongue got looser. They felt comfortable with me. Unbeknownst to them, I hung on every word. One evening in the big living room, Vivian was bitching to her friends about Madison, William's younger sister. I was curled on the velvet sofa, sipping wine and pretending to scroll on my phone. Over the noise, Vivian suddenly blurted out, "She's a disappointment to the bloodline. I have to take Xanax just to deal with the fact I gave birth to her." Oh. Vivian immediately gasped and covered her mouth, but it was too late. I had caught it all. Without flinching or letting on I'd heard, I said softly, "Oh, gosh, don't worry. Your secret is safe with me," giving her a reassuring smile I hoped sounded innocent. She blinked at me startled and murmured, "Oh, thank you," mostly to her friend. But once the secret? Mom said that? Giggles died down. I decided to act. The next time I stayed overnight at the Harrison mansion, I made sure to take an extra look around. William had left for a business trip, so it was just Vivian, Madison, and me that night. Vivian had retired early with a headache. Madison was out with friends. I was alone upstairs and felt vindictive. I quietly opened the door to the master bathroom while nobody was looking. The lights were off, but moonlight filtered through the curtains. I spotted her medicine cabinet. Slowly, quietly, I crept up. Inside, I found a small bottle of her prescription Xanax, little white capsules. Without thinking twice, I unscrewed the cap and poured them all into my palm. My heart pounded. Then I rifled through my own purse. I had a vitamin bottle on hand. I always carried tons of them for my own stress. Grabbing a handful of vitamin C, I poured them into the empty Xanax bottle. I screwed it shut. I left the almost identical pill container resting where I found it, then backed away quietly. It was a silly little revenge, maybe petty. But in that moment, it felt like justice. A few weeks later, Madison had decided to host a fancy dinner party at her new apartment. I was invited. It was a friendly gathering. Some college friends of hers, plus Vivian and her boyfriend who doted on her, and William and me. I forgot all about the swapped pills until dinner began. We were all seated at a gleaming dining table. The chandelier cast a warm glow over all of us. The first couple courses passed normally. Wine, salad, giggles over lighter conversation. Then, just as Madison was about to take a bite of her roast, Vivian snapped. "Stop rubbing your fork against the plate, you fat effing pig," she shrieked. The words felt like lead weights thrown at the table. I froze, holding my breath. All eyes turned to Madison. She went ashy white. For a moment, nothing moved. Then Madison gasped and started to choke. Her shoulders lurched and she stumbled out of her chair. People screamed. Someone grabbed a napkin, fanned her face. William, sitting right next to her, jumped up in panic. "Mama," he shouted as Madison crumpled on the floor. She gasped again, eyes wild, as if struggling for air. I saw Vivian lunging from her own seat. "I'll call 911, she hollered, but even in her chaos I recognized the smile that spread across my face. I bit back a laugh, my lips twitching. I did this. I won. My knees were weak with adrenaline. Madison was quickly on hands and knees coughing, but eventually breathing. It turned out her Xanax hadn't kicked in, that's why she freaked. I watched the paramedics arrive and stabilize her. I remember feeling a flash of panic for a second. Oh God, what if I did actual harm? But Madison soon sat up with an embarrassed smile. "Thank you, I'm okay," she said, cheeks crimson but not hurt physically. After the paramedics left and everyone calmed down, William pressed Vivian on the floor, demanding to know what had happened. His voice was sharp. "Mom, what's going on? How did Maddie suddenly need an ambulance?" Vivian's face had gone pale, her own hand over her pounding heart. She shook her head. I don't know. It was the stress, I guess. Funny, I didn't know your sister's anxiety was so bad. My smile was only for me as I leaned back in my chair, pretending to be calm. That night, I went home feeling a strange mix of guilt and triumph. Madison was going to be fine. I told her the next day I was so sorry, but she just waved it off. "It's okay," she said quietly. "It's not your fault she's crazy." I decided not to tell William what I'd done. I'd had my revenge. But the universe had other plans. 2 days later, while I was at work giving yet another door-to-door sales pitch in a nice neighborhood, my phone started blowing up. My boss, Gary, was calling. Alarm bells rang in my head. I excused myself and took it outside. "Hey, Gary." I answered tentatively. The line crackled. "Your phone's ringing off the hook. My feeds say someone's posted something about you." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" He took a deep breath. "I hate to say this, but apparently some tabloid blog posted an article about you. It's not great. They said you have a criminal past. Minor stuff, apparently shoplifting when you were a teenager, but they made it sound like you're some hardened thief. The headline is something absurd like, Harrison Air dating Skid Row thief. The world spun. Oh my God, I whispered. People had always known me as a scrappy kid, but a criminal? And on the internet? For what? Gary continued, "I just wanted to hear it from you that you've never had any involvement with this guy's company affairs or asked for money. We'll sort it out, but be prepared, clients talk." My mind raced. Vivian. I could practically hear her smug laughter. She must have found those sealed records. "Gary, I never asked William for money. Ever. I pay my own rent. I have a job. I can't believe this." He sighed sympathetically. "Listen, you're one of my best salespeople, and I believe you. But clients will see this. I'm moving you to inside sales for now. No client meetings. We'll weather it, okay?" I managed a nod, though he couldn't see it. "Okay, thank you. I appreciate it." After I hung up, a new wave of panic hit me. My phone buzzed again. This time it was William. Did he know? I swallowed and answered. "Hey," I said, trying to sound normal. He was quiet for a moment. "Did you see the news?" "You too," I said. "Yeah, Gary just told me. It's everywhere." "I know it's from my past. Nothing serious, Dash." William interrupted, voice tight. "It's not just your past being dragged up. People are saying someone sent it to the tabloid." His words trailed off. Then, whispering, "Someone in my family, probably. My mom." Anger flared in me. How dare she? "You don't have to do anything about it," I said quickly. "I'll figure it out." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm sorry. This is awful. I'll call my lawyer, see if we can get it taken down. And I want you to stay with me tonight." My heart thumped at that. "Are you sure? It's bad timing if you have work." "I don't care. I need you here." His voice cracked slightly. We agreed to meet at his apartment. I packed a small bag, still in shock. 2 hours later, I was walking up the stairs to his place. Every step was heavy. He opened the door immediately, relieved. "Hey," he said softly. His eyes were concerned. I called my dad. He's furious too. He's already on the phone with his lawyers, and Madison's been scouring her inbox. We found something. Something? I frowned. She had been emailing a private investigator. You'll never guess. He turned and I saw Madison leaning against the doorframe, face grim. Madison stepped forward. Your mom hired a PI to dig up dirt on you. She paid him $5,000. It's all here, she said, handing William her tablet, open to an email thread with Blackwell Investigations. His name was on it, a contract agreeing to search sealed records. My jaw fell open. She actually bribed someone to spy on me? William's face hardened. That's enough. You've done a lot, Mom. He marched toward the stairs. We're going to her house right now, and you're going to explain yourself. I couldn't speak as we followed him out. This was real. This was happening. We arrived at the Harrison Mansion, that grand marble palace of memories, after dinner. The living room was all polished wood and expensive art. William's father, Robert, sat in his favorite armchair. Vivian was perched on an ottoman, sipping tea. Madison and I stood together, like two allies facing a trial. William glared at his mother. Explain this, he demanded, tossing the tablet onto a side table. The email was on display, paid $5,000 for juvenile record intel on your girlfriend. Vivian's lips pressed thin. You didn't hear that from me, darling, she replied sweetly, but the slight twitch at the corner of her eye gave her away. Robert looked up shocked. Vivian, what is this? Vivian cleared her throat. It's research, honest. A mother's worry. She gave a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. William's voice was ice. You have each privacy laws for a reason. You went behind everyone's back. This isn't due diligence, it's invasion. I bristled. Your mother wanted to prove I was some gold-digging criminal, I spat out. She didn't care that I have a job and pay my bills. She only cares about her money. Vivian's face went pale, then red. How dare you speak to me like that in my home, our home, she hissed. Robert stood, looming large. Enough, he said firmly. The room fell silent. Vivian, you are a grown woman and a mother. What you did is criminal. You invaded our daughter-in-law's privacy. Vivian opened her mouth to protest, but the look on Robert's face stopped her. He nodded at me, and I swallowed down a swirl of tears, unashamed. What's done is done, Robert continued, calming a little as he saw me standing my ground. But I want you to know, you are welcome in this family. Not because Vivian says so, but because of who you are. Vivian's eyes narrowed at me, but my cheeks flushed at Robert's kindness. I've always valued hard work and character above all. Anyone who stands by my son with honesty has a place here, regardless of wealth or pedigree. My eyes stung at the sincerity in his voice. I mouthed quietly, thank you. Madison rolled her eyes from the corner, amused. I threw a thankful smile in her direction. She was grinning behind her face mask. Vivian's shoulders sagged with frustration. She muttered, mostly to herself, this isn't over. Then she walked out of the room. I wasn't sure what to do next. But Robert's next move surprised me even more. He opened his arms in a grandfatherly way. Come, everyone sit. No need for more drama tonight. He patted the sofa. You, he said gently, indicating me, come sit here. William curled into the couch beside me, putting his arm around my shoulders. Home, I thought, leaning into the warmth of his embrace. Later that night, as William led me out to my car, he squeezed my hand and whispered, I was so proud of you back there. I was worried about you. I guess I had a lot to learn about my mom. He looked at me earnestly. I know you asked me once to think about moving in together. I want to talk about that. About us. In the cool night air, I wiped away the dampness of my cheeks. He was so beautiful to me then. Her child who loved his parents' approval, and brave young man standing up to them for me. For us. Yes, I whispered. Let's talk. Madison was absolutely thrilled as she headed home with me after the confrontation. I knew it, she giggled. Father is always the hero. My mom is rattled. I laughed softly. Yeah, you did great. We did great, I corrected myself. She nudged me as we walked to the car. All this night's failures must have given her a splitting headache. Watch out if she tries any of her tricks again. William gave a little salute to his father at the door one more time before we left. I took one last look at the elegant mansion, feeling a strange sense of weight lifting off my chest. For once, I wasn't on edge. A week later, life in my little world steadied. I didn't have a job at a client desk anymore. I was back doing phone sales, but I didn't mind. In fact, I was grateful to have a routine. William and I were inseparable again. We even started shopping for a new apartment together, planning to move in after my lease ended. It felt like we were clearing the cobwebs and starting fresh. And something absolutely amazing happened. My boss, Gary, called me one evening and said, I can't fire you for something from when you were 14. You've proven yourself here. I'm promoting you to senior sales manager. Congratulations. I cried in his office that night. I had earned everything myself. Yes, Vivian's effort to tarnish me backfired spectacularly. I held up my phone to the screen when he showed me that the article was completely taken down everywhere, thanks to William's family lawyers. Only a few people had screenshots. I thanked Gary profusely and paid him back later with lunch. It was a relief to know my past wouldn't haunt me anymore. Back at home, as we uncorked a bottle of inexpensive champagne, William toasted to us. To us, he smiled, for facing the worst. I love you. I love you too, I replied, my voice thick. We clinked glasses and took a breath. I grinned mischievously. So, about that moving-in conversation. The weeks turned into months. Vivian was silent for a while, came to my housewarming party with a stony expression, then left early. Later, she began sending cards on birthdays and holidays. Always very formal, not a word about earlier events. I didn't know if that meant she was trying to be civil or just nosy, but I kept my guard up. Months of peace passed. William and I settled into our cozy apartment, a perfect mix of his elegant touches, leather sofa, silk throws, and my budget-friendly IKEA furniture. Every time I walked through that door, my heart fluttered. It was ours. Often, I thought of that first night at the long table where Vivian declared that the poor shouldn't even exist. I thought about how far I'd come, from wondering where my next meal was coming from, to this moment of quiet comfort. And I also thought about William. I remembered how he looked at me when he introduced me to his father as my girlfriend. Proud. He had seen me. Really seen me. He didn't care if I was wealthy or poor. He cared about who I was. And I loved him so much for that. Sometimes when I woke up at night, I would quietly smile. We had survived Vivian, survived all that. We even had a future. It was on one of those nights that my phone buzzed again. Vivian M. Harrison. Oh God, I whispered, sitting up in bed. William, beside me in his pajamas, sat up. I'll get it, he said, half asleep. Wait, I said, eyes fixed on the screen. It was a text. I grabbed the phone. It was from Vivian, sent to me and William's sister. It read, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I want us to move forward. Can you please meet me? It's important. Below, a dinner time and address. My heart skipped. Dinner with Vivian again? And me? I felt a swirl of old fear and new empowerment. 2 years ago, I never would have imagined responding. No. I was shocked that she was even asking. William's eyes met mine over the rim of his coffee mug as he sipped his morning brew. Something in me must have shown. He put his mug down. Vivian, he said, eyebrows raising. I nodded. Yeah. She wants us to meet her. Says she's sorry. He gave a slow nod. Maybe she actually is trying to make peace. He took my hand. She apologized to me 2 months ago for everything. She seemed genuine. I absorbed that. Was it possible? After all that had happened, maybe she had learned something. Or maybe she just finally realized the game was over and trying to save face. Do you want to go? William asked quietly, concern shining in his eyes. I swallowed. My first instinct was to say no. But some small part of me, still hopeful, or at least curious, said yes. It was my story now, and I deserved a choice. Meeting her would be a final piece of closure, maybe a way to see how far I'd come. And selfishly, I wanted to see if William's faith in her apology meant anything to me. Okay, I said softly. Let's do it. Together. He smiled, and I felt that old flutter, but better this time, like we were the ones in control, not her. So here we were, in a cozy little French bistro downtown. The wooden booths and soft lighting felt strangely warm and not at all stuffy. Vivian sat across from us at the table, looking tired. Her posture was straight, hands clasped around a teacup. William put his arm around my waist, and I could feel the tension ease. Robert and Madison were accompanying us too. They had insisted on coming, and I was grateful. Vivian cleared her throat. Thank you all for coming, she said, voice steadier than I expected. She looked older than when I first met her, lines at the corners of her eyes, and the practiced mask of manners made her look like she'd aged a decade. I want to say something important. 2 years ago, I treated you and you, terribly. I was arrogant and cruel. She glanced at William and Madison. I was a bad mother. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope we can find some peace. It was surreal. The woman who had once pushed me down for her son's sake was now looking at me with genuine regret in her eyes. William squeezed my hand under the table. His sister was staring curiously. My stomach felt like it had twisted, but I held Vivian's gaze. Mom, William said gently, we grew a lot these past few years. Maybe it's time for understanding. She exhaled slowly. I know I hurt you and I'm sorry. I want to be better, for your sake and for my own. She looked at me pointedly. The world is a harsh place, and I realize now that I should have been giving more help instead of just judging. Your voice, my name, it was right. I was wrong. My heart thumped wildly. I didn't know if I should respond to this. The words on her lips were nearly unbelievable. Instead, I spoke for the first time that evening, voice quiet but steady. Ma'am, you don't owe me anything. What matters is your relationship with your children. She looked at me with a flicker of relief. I need someone who understands them to help. They're distant now. I don't know how to fix it. I leaned back, taking a breath. 2 years ago, she would have never asked. Now she was asking me. I looked at William. His eyes were kind, encouraging. He nodded once. I gave Vivian a small, sad smile. I'll help, I said after a moment. But only if you're ready to listen and change. She nodded fervently. Absolutely. I mean it this time. I thought of where I started. A scared girl from Skid Row, trembling in a designer restaurant. Now I was a confident woman in a dining room with people who had once driven me out. I realized how far I'd come. I was no longer that girl, and she had to meet me now. As the evening went on, we talked more like a family should. Awkwardly at first, then with glimpses of warmth. Vivian was trying truly, and William and Madison gave her small chances. By the end of dinner, I felt a cautious sort of hope. Perhaps this was a new chapter. As we said our goodbyes and headed out into the cool night, I caught William's eye again. He squeezed my hand and whispered, "Thank you." On the drive home, I leaned my head on his shoulder. All the tension of the last few years melted away. The city lights flickered past the car window. I thought of the tents on Skid Row, and then of our little apartment with our mismatched furniture and shared lamps. I thought of those first intimidating dinners, and of the man now steering the wheel with me by his side. And I knew deep in my bones that no matter what storm might come next, I had already survived so much. The road ahead was still ours to make together. And in that comfortable quiet of the car, I smiled, feeling something close to peace at last.